What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. In 2017, Nintendo released Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it's gone on to be the best-selling game on the Switch platform. And a lot of us figured, well, maybe Nintendo will release some DLC or some sort of substantial update to kind of go along with it, but we haven't really had anything, at least not until this weekend when we did get an update for a Mario Kart game. Just wasn't the one we were expecting. We'll go over that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 as more and more rumors and reports are coming out now, specifically though even around when we can expect to see this game release. And we're also going to be talking about Sony and the end of an era that's been 27 years in the making. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring the notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads that go up here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Game Builder Garage. I really am thinking about making a video where we just go through some of these creations and check them out kind of back to back, as it does look like we're getting more and more really interesting projects. For example, Metal Gear. Now take a look at this right here. This is from a user by the name of Super Mario UG. It's a 3-part game that, I mean, it looks like Metal Gear. It's still in like the Game Builder Garage kind of style, but I mean, it is very creative. We even have like the codec sequence kind of come up, and then you'll see some of the text show up on the wall as you walk through. It's a really cool idea to kind of build this out with the tools that they have in Game Builder Garage. It's titled Game Gear Solid. It is 3 parts that you'd have to go through and download. And if you check the sources down below in the description, you can go through and get the code to do this. This would be one I would certainly be checking out. It is impressive what you're able to do in Game Builder Garage. We've seen F-Zero, Mario Kart, and now even a Metal Gear Solid game. Also, here's an interesting situation. Monster Hunter Stories 2 is coming up here this week, but it looks like some box shots of the retail packaging got out online. You can see this over on Nintendo Everything, and you'll notice that logo at the bottom there, download required, see back. And then on the back, it says that the game requires download of at least 15 gigabytes. The strange thing here is that the game is currently listed on the eShop as requiring 13.5 gigabytes. So you figure, oh, they'll use a 16 gigabyte cartridge here. You'll just pop the card in and you're good to go. I'm not really sure why it has download required at all on this. In fact, everyone seems to be confused here to the point where there's belief that maybe that's a misprint, because we all have to assume that Capcom is packaging in a cartridge in there. I mean, Monster Hunter Rise was straightforward. When you picked it up, pop the card in, and you're off and running. Could there be maybe updates that are pretty substantial in size down the road that they're planning? Yes, but you wouldn't put a download required logo on the front and then talk about 15 gigabytes being needed to play the game. That's typically when you see that with something like a NBA, where they put most of the game on a server that you have to download, or even LA Noire, where you have to download, and you know, if you get to a certain point, to play the rest of the game. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be picking this game up, and then I'm sure I'll talk about it at some point, whether it's on Twitter or on the podcast, about what exactly is going on here. Oh, and it does look like NetherRealm is now on to their next project. We can see this over on Twitter, where they tweeted, NetherRealm is now focusing on its next project, and after more than 2 years of supporting Mortal Kombat 11, DLC for the game, including characters, has come to an end. All right, so obviously they were going to move on from Mortal Kombat 11 at some point, and this got people excited for what the future could hold for NetherRealm. And it is already kind of a weird situation, because we know WB Games and like the merger and things are getting split up when it comes to studios. From what we're seeing, NetherRealm is still there with WB Games, all of this, right? But there's always a possibility that they end up with Microsoft or something, so we'll see. But for now, maybe they're moving on to Injustice. Maybe they want to do another Mortal Kombat game just back to back. I figured they would go Mortal Kombat, then Injustice, then Mortal Kombat, or maybe they want to try something completely different. A lot of possibilities here, but they just wanted to let everyone know, hey, we're moving on from Mortal Kombat 11 after doing all the DLC characters and other additions. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Mario Kart, because Nintendo announced an interesting update. Like I said, one we weren't expecting. If they announced a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC or update that added content, most of us would be like, okay, that makes sense. But what about Mario Kart Live Home Circuit? That was the game that they had released during the Mario 35. It was like the augmented reality RC car with the camera that you drive around, and you'd set up these courses in your house, and it would basically drop a Mario Kart like track into your home through that lens. It was a cool idea. I think it worked pretty well, but really a lot of people, I'm sure, played it for a bit and then kind of just went back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because it's much easier to pick up and play that since you just jump into the game. But it looks like Nintendo has decided to add content to Mario Kart Live. Take a look at this. This was posted up on the page talking about the different updates, with July 1st having an update of version 1.1, and it does show what they've added here. Mario Cup has been added to Grand Prix, fulfill certain conditions in Mario Cup, and receive 3 new environments and a gate to use in course creation. Super Yoshi and Yoshi Horn have been added to the kart designs in the game, unlock them by fulfilling certain conditions in Mario Cup, and then of course made general changes to improve enjoyment of the game. And I really looked at this and was just surprised. I figured they would have put Mario Kart Tour out. It would have been this really cool thing that they would release during the anniversary, kind of a blending of like the toys and games, and Nintendo likes to do that, obviously. But then to come back and follow up with more content, a little surprising considering Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just kind of sitting over there with over 30 some odd million people who have purchased it. It feels obvious to a lot of us that if they released some kind of content, even if it was paid like $10 and adds a bunch of stuff, they would make millions of dollars overnight. But Nintendo is, we'll say, different when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I think most of us expect Nintendo to be working on another Mario Kart game, and they just don't need to release it because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe won't stop selling. It fell to $50 on sale, I think, over the weekend, and it jumped up to like one of the top games on the Switch in terms of games sold. That's above Shin Megami Tensei 5 or Pokemon or Metroid Dread, Mario Kart. It fell to $50, it's at the top of the charts all of a sudden. And hey, if you're someone who's playing Mario Kart Live still, or is like, oh, this could make me go back to it, I mean, that's neat. You get extra stuff added to it. It's just weird that Nintendo is mostly updating Mario Kart Tour on cell phones, and they're updating Mario Kart Live. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the one that's really bringing in a lot of people to the Switch, just kind of hanging out over there. Let me know if you think that Nintendo will do some sort of DLC, or they're just gonna go right to Mario Kart 9 maybe next year, or at least before the Switch is all done, it will get that original Mario Kart game, and yeah, they'll probably end up taking that and then porting it to the next Switch down the line. Next up, let's talk about Sony and Japan Studio. Now, we had already heard that things weren't going great at Japan Studio, where it appeared that a lot of people were leaving, and it seemed that Sony was taking a lot of the people that were left there and kind of merging them into Team Asobi. Obviously, Astro Bot is a great IP for Sony to continue forward with, and I hope they do make a really cool, big budget 3D platform with that that's not tied to something like VR, but we'll see about that one. I just think Astro's Playroom was a really cool experience on the PlayStation 5, and I would like to see them continue building on that. However, it does look like Japan Studio, that era has come to an end, and people may be looking around wondering why this is a big deal for some. I mean, Japan Studio's been there since the beginning. Seriously, at the end of 1993 is when they were formed, and if you just look at the amount of games that they have put out for a ton of generations, handhelds, game consoles, the original PlayStation, PS2, PS3, Vita, PSP, PS4, the list goes on there. It does kind of hit you in that nostalgia bone. You're like, wow, Japan Studio really is going away. I mean, take a look here. Sony even removed them from all of the different studio logos that they have on their website. And again, if you're not too familiar with Japan Studio, I mean, think back to the titles that they created. Very creative out there experiences like Ape Escape, Legend of Dragoon, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus. I mean, Eco is a game that people still look back on in the industry as having big time influence around creation of some of these more, we'll say, artistic style games. Loco Roco, you remember playing that on like the PSP or Patapon, Gravity Rush, Knack, The Last Guardian. But as I've said before, Sony is really pushing more towards the Western audience, and the biggest thing is Jim Ryan's coming in, obviously looking around, and he's a business guy. And let's face it, Gravity Rush, for example, isn't moving units, it's not selling a lot. So basically, Japan Studio, as time went on, unfortunately, their games continue to sell less and less and less, to the point where I feel like Gravity Rush online now, at least one of them, is pretty expensive because it's kind of hard just to find it. Like, a lot of people didn't pick it up, so obviously they weren't printing more and more and pressing more discs to put out there. So it's become kind of a rare PlayStation 4 game now. And sure, newer gamers probably aren't going to see this as that big of a deal because, I mean, if you weren't really around during like the PS1, the PS2, or even throw the PS3 era in there with the PSP next to it, you're probably going to be like, well, they just made Gravity Rush and they worked with Bloodborne and yeah, that's fine and it's not that big of a deal. But I just see this as Sony changing along with the times, and unfortunately, Japan studios kind of left behind with that. So let me know if this hits you in the nostalgia bone like it did me, because I saw this, I said, oh, Japan studio, yep, that's it. I mean, it was already basically done, but the fact that the logo then being removed from PlayStation's website, a place where it's really been, like I said, for over 2 decades now. I mean, that hit pretty hard. Next up, let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that people continue to predict every year at different E3s or events, or rumors get out there that, we're prepping for some sort of reveal for the game. It looks like we could be still a ways off from this. And it's weird to say that because Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013 on the PS3 and the 360. It's since gone to the Xbox One and the PS4, and then the PC, and then the PS5 and the Xbox Series systems. So yes, it's spanned 3 different generations. And a lot of that has to do with Grand Theft Auto Online being so lucrative for Rockstar and Take-Two. I promise you, Rockstar used to release a lot of games, multiple games in fact, in 1 year, and since Grand Theft Auto 5, it hasn't been a lot. Of course, we got Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was a really good game, a very big game. But now everyone's kind of looking towards the future for GTA 6. Well, we can take a look at this here. There's a video that was posted up by Tom Henderson, who has been pretty good for different games like Battlefield as an example, for different rumors and reports and leaks that have come out. But it does look like, with a ton of details, by the way, that I'll leave down below if you want to read through them. The biggest one, though, is when we could be expecting it to release, around 2024 to 2025, with the reasons being Rockstar is heavily focusing on employee well-being. And then the other one being, since the game will be current-gen PC only, Rockstar wants to wait for when current-gen consoles have sold a lot of units so they can maximize sale. And the other obvious reason is GTA Online makes it so they don't have to rush this game out there. If there was no Grand Theft Auto Online, I do believe we would probably already have Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, that was a video that was posted up last week, but since then, it does look like we've had Jason Schreier actually kind of weigh in here. We can see this on Twitter, where he says, I don't know why everyone thinks that I said GTA 6 was coming in 2023. Everything Tom Henderson has said about the game matches up with what I've heard. Now, I also want to point out an article that a lot of people have continued to send me for a little while now that has to do with Take-Two expecting to spend $89 million on marketing during the 12-month period ending March 31st, 2024, that you would kind of expect, oh, they're going to gear up for this big marketing push for Grand Theft Auto 6 leading into maybe holiday 2024, even going into 2025. But it does look like Take-Two actually clarified to GamesBeat that the marketing here is actually with contracts with third parties. Doesn't reflect their marketing budget for any of their internal studios like Rockstar Games. So unfortunately, the marketing budget stuff there that's been kind of passed around doesn't necessarily correlate with when Grand Theft Auto 6 would be coming out. But to be honest, I don't really doubt that it could be, seriously, 2024 or 2025. This could be a game that is 11 or 12 years in development. And I do expect some big things here from Rockstar when we finally get the reveal and they go over all of the different elements of the game, even if they do stuff with maybe Vice City, as has been rumored, some of the landmarks and setting there. Just when it comes down to the game itself, it's really the immersion of Grand Theft Auto 6 and what they're able to do with different NPCs walking around and the way that the world itself feels alive with very small details. And if it does take that long, okay, we'll see what they come up with. But the longer we go, like I said, the bigger and bigger those expectations get. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, out here in about 2 weeks now, because Nintendo did release a video that goes over some of the quality of life stuff. And I gotta be honest, I don't know why it took them this long to do it. Like, this is all stuff they could have just said when they first announced the game. It's smaller details, but when people were talking about the amiibo being like the one quality of life thing, it was like, well, let's see if they have anything else they want to go over, because there were a lot of things they could be fixing from Skyward Sword to make it more streamlined and at times more bearable, we'll say. Take a look at this though. This is from Nebelian, who did kind of summarize the trailer that you'll also be seeing here, saying that it has skippable cutscenes, optional help from Fee, fast-forward dialogue, streamlined item info, and enhanced frame rate and button layout, which of course they already went over that. But the big one here is the optional help from Fee, so you can essentially mute Fee, as some different sites and headlines have said. Fast-forward dialogue is big, and the one that a lot of people are going to point out is the streamlined item info. Picking up a rupee, for example, doesn't have to be a whole ordeal where it tells you that you picked up a rupee. Seriously, these are small things, but they really added up with the original experience, and it is good to see that Nintendo really went back, looked around really at what people have been saying through feedback with, I'm sure, reviews and just overall general consensus online with Skyward Sword on the Wii. And yeah, I think this game is going to be significantly better just from some of these things. It again, sounds like small things, but the fact that you couldn't skip cutscenes back in the original, it was so weird. Or Fee just constantly saying things or giving you hints maybe too early at times, and obviously whenever you pick up an item, it has to tell you about that item and what you picked up, and yeah, that was a whole thing. So you know what? I'm looking forward to picking this one up because I played through Skyward Sword once, and that was it. It wasn't my favorite Zelda game, especially in the 3D Zelda field, so I'll give it another chance here on the Switch and see what I think, but it at least seems like it'll be a lot more streamlined now with some of these quality of life improvements. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you held off on buying a game on Xbox thinking you might go to Game Pass later? 46% of you said, yes, I can wait a little while just in case it ends up in Game Pass. 26% said, no, I buy the game day one. And then 28% said, I'm not subscribed to Game Pass, but you know what? I still wanted to participate in this poll. Now, this whole topic came up online. I saw some people talking about it on Twitter, pointing to a thread on Reset Era where someone had mentioned, hey, you know what? I have this Game Pass effect right now where, like, I saw Scarlet Nexus and I'm thinking, you know what? I could see that going into Game Pass. It had marketing through Microsoft. I'm gonna wait several months to see if it happens, and if not, hey, I'll grab it on sale. Now, I think part of that has to do with Scarlet Nexus didn't have a big pull on this person, because if they really wanted the game, you'd probably buy it for full price so you can start playing it. So obviously there was a thought of, maybe I'll wait for it to go on sale, or yeah, maybe I'll see if it goes in the Game Pass. But there were people who were like, yeah, I kind of feel that way at times with some of these games that are coming up, and it's not announced that it's going to Game Pass, but could it in the future? Because I can wait for that. And that spiraled into a whole thing. Now, Scarlet Nexus seems to be the big example right now, and that is, I think that's a bad example for Xbox in general, because let's face it, Battlefield is going to sell better than Scarlet Nexus on the Xbox in general. JRPGs, action RPGs like that are more focused on like Japan, that is something that most people would then say, well, PlayStation or Switch. So I feel like when we look at things like GamesIndustry.biz report in the UK that it was 80-20 in favor of PlayStation, well, do you think Bandai was like, everyone's going to buy it on the Xbox, or do you think they just printed more PlayStation copies? Not necessarily like, oh, well, that's why. No, just Bandai, I'm sure, didn't ship a ton of Xbox copies out anyway because they weren't expecting it to sell. So I think a better example will be something like Battlefield. That was also rumored at one point to possibly head into Game Pass. It has not so far, so we're going to assume that it will not. And will that keep people from buying into something like Battlefield, a first-person shooter? Or will people say, you know what, I want it anyway, I'm gonna buy it, and if it comes to Game Pass later on, great. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Hunter saying, honestly, if Xbox stays at the $60 price tag, that's a huge plus for Xbox. In Canada, we are already paying $90 for games, so PS5 games are $100, which is a huge negative for anyone wanting PlayStation. This is a weird thing, by the way, right now, that is being brought up is Microsoft has not made that jump to $70 yet, and even Flight Simulator is still at $60, which is a game that's only on the Xbox Series X and the Series S. So I'm wondering, as we get into things like Perfect Dark or Fable, will Microsoft jump to 70, or are they thinking, hey, we don't really care. We want you to sign up for Game Pass anyway. So like 60, 70, we're not really making the jump. we would rather you spend the money on our subscription service. And then Sony's going to be kind of hanging out there by themselves unless Nintendo jumps to 70 as well in a couple of years when they start up another generation. So again, a strange situation when it comes to just pricing now between these console manufacturers and their games. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whereas Mario Kart Live Home Circuit being the Mario Kart game on the Switch that got the content update. Let me know if that one surprised you. Also, what about Sony Japan Studios having their logo officially removed from Sony's website? And like I said, an end of an era here. Let me know if that one hits you at all. And then the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD with those quality of life improvements. Is that enough yet to get you on board? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.